Okay, good evening, everyone. Dessert's on the way. We apologize for some of the late food delivery, but for the sake of time for the program, we'll go ahead and start. Even though you're not supposed to say Happy New Year after January 16th, we'll break the rule and Happy New Year to all our members and esteemed guests. And welcome to our 2024 PMI Montgomery County Chapter Program Year. Okay, chapter elections, you should be seeing an e-ballot arrive to all valid members in the next couple days. Please check your PMI dashboards. We've been generous with the November meeting in terms of people whose membership lapsed within a month or two to include them, but our membership total is a little bit down. So if you're not sure if you renewed or when you renewed your PMP, you didn't pick a chapter, just give a look at it because that'll ensure you get a ballot and you can have your voice be a part of the chapter future. Thank you to all who self-nominated, many of which are here in the room. So we're looking forward to getting to work and are excited what the future holds for the chapter. For those who need PDUs for either their PMP or other advanced certifications, we're one of the few chapters in the global PMI universe that put all of our meetings out for PDU claim. So if you have some time to have something run as background noise, this is a good opportunity to earn PDUs. The claim codes are in the YouTube comments and a lot of good content. Last year, we had a great program year from start to finish. So. And speaking of finishing, for those who were here for our December meeting and our holiday special, we had to do a virtual projection here with our speaker due to some car trouble, but she's here today. So welcome to Miss Crystal Brady, who gave a great presentation on Discipline Agile, and that's also on our YouTube channel. So. If you were here in December or watched the video and wanted to share some ideas, she'll stay for an extra 5 or 10 minutes after the meeting concludes. Okay, for our Project Management for Change outreach, their annual National Capital Region event, the Project Management Day of Service, which pairs pro bono project managers with nonprofits and small businesses that have a problem to solve and could use a project management assistance. They extended registration for a few days, but were able to get the numbers they needed. So many of you, or many of the chapter members from here, are the volunteers. So we thank you and hopefully you have a great time next week. Our Toastmasters group, we're also one of the few chapters that has a sister Toastmasters group. Yep. Do you want to come up or just have them talk? Okay. Sure. So we have leadership here, but we can all be better public speakers, especially me. So there's never not a good time to participate in Toastmasters regardless of where you are in your career. But over to you, ladies.
Good evening, everyone. I am Preet, and I am here for the PMI Toastmasters group. And we meet on the second and fourth Wednesday virtually on Zoom, and then the third Wednesday in person. And currently our meetings are at not Davis Library anymore. We've actually moved and we're now back at Walter Johnson. And so our next meeting is coming up next Wednesday on uh, Valentine's Day, so on the 14th. And so we will be meeting from 7 to 8:30 virtually online. If anyone is interested, please come see me. I can give you one of our business cards. And let me just quickly pass the mic over to our president, Julia.
Thank you very much. Yep. If you don't know anything about Toastmasters, most people do. It's a great place, not only to network as we are doing tonight, it's a great place, great time, great way to earn PDUs. And for each session that you attend, you can earn 1.5 PDUs. So that's a bonus. But also it's a great time to learn to handle improvisational speaking. We have a thing called table topics, which is great for if you have to give an elevator speech sometime. And impromptu speaking, we also have speeches for Toastmasters. Plus, it's also a great way to pump up. Hey, Alan, I can see you over there, one of our members. You can also talk to him. It's a great way to ramp up your leadership skills and your ability to work your interpersonal relationship. And if you're someone like me who started a few years ago as a very shy person that drove around the building 3 times before I even went into the meeting, it also allows me to go into any room and not be afraid. So once again, earn PDUs, overcome any shyness, and learn some interpersonal skills. Come have some fun too. And we always have great meetings. Thank you very much.
Okay, speaking of Valentine's Day, our sister chapters are also, PMI Silver Spring is offering a virtual meeting with Lean Six Sigma certified expert on planning for change management. So if you find yourself available next Wednesday, the $10 fee to support their virtual technology is a great deal. For those familiar with professional development leader Dory Clark, PMI WDC is doing a book club on her latest literary work. She won't be a part of it, but it's a good conversation. And if you're looking for a book club, who better than other projects and program managers? And then the University of Maryland's holding their annual project management symposium. They're one of the few state universities that have a project management center from a degree program. It's a little pricey. Early bird pricing stops next week. I think $400 or $500, but the fact that you get nearly 38 PDUs is a good bargain. So if your company or agency has an education and training allowance, this would be a great use of that. And there'll be more information on that on our website and newsletters in coming days. Okay, book alert. Mr. Carl Pritchard, who is our speaker in November for our member appreciation dinner when we had this whole room full of 200 of our finest members, shared that he's still fighting stage 4 cancer. He wrote a book called The Stage 4 Project, a project manager's game plan for dealing with cancer, which just got published on or available on Amazon for a low price of $15. We have 3 books today to raffle off. This is a great read for PMs, caregivers, or if you're fighting an illness. So if you should have received a raffle ticket when you walked in. First one ends in 6718. No takers. Nobody left yet. Okay, I'll keep looking at your number. And 6722. Yay, we have a winner. I trust you. 6718. Yep, sure.
Thank you.
And last one is 6702. Yay, we have Mr. Schiller. Great. Hold on to your raffle tickets. There'll be one more raffle of a 1-year membership for the Data Visualization Society. So hold on. If you do have to leave early, give it to a table mate. We'll have that raffle at the conclusion of our program. You gotta give it to him. Okay, our education partners are doing amazing things up and down the East Coast. So many have returned to in-person offerings. Mr. Pritchard, despite his fight, was at Hood College in Frederick, Maryland last week. The great team of Lisa and Dave of Leadership Techniques are offering both virtual and in-person leadership training and certification exam prep. So stay tuned to our newsletter, and going back to, if your company has an education allowance, you might as well use it. Great. So an endorsement for leadership techniques at the PMI Baltimore Frederick Division's dinner. We'll make sure to publicize that. Okay, it's my distinguished honor to introduce Ms. Amanda Makulec. I was struggling with some data visualization solutions with my government agency of, do we use Tableau? Do we use Microsoft Power BI? Do we use what's in software as a service models like Salesforce and ServiceNow that we're paying a lot of money for? Do we use just old school PowerPoint for metrics and visualization? So did a little bit of research from my own problem. I was like, this would probably be an interesting topic for the chapter. And Amanda was the most impressive, and every time I learn more, I become more and more impressed. So she's currently the executive director of the Data Visualization Society, which has over 30,000 members around the globe. She's the co-host of the leading data visualization YouTube show, Chart Chat. I do wish your co-host would let you talk more. They talk a little bit too much. She's continuing 10 years of leading data visualization efforts for clients across the board. She's also a New York Times guest essayist, so if you YouTube that, that'll come up. And she's in the great company of famous Boston University alumni of Dr. King, Dr. Spock, Julianne Moore, and Howard Stern. So we'll transition out real quick and welcome Amanda.
Thank you. You guys click it for me? Hi. I learned something new. I didn't know any of those were alumna of Boston University. So thank you for that. That was news to me. It's great to have a chance to be here with you all tonight. Thank you for having me and letting me come and infiltrate the world of project management. As mentioned, I work in the world of public health data visualization. You saw MPH, not PMP, after my name. So my work is primarily in the world of public health data visualization. So I did spend 5 years working at Excella, which is an agile technology company based here in Washington, D.C. that some of you may know. I know they have some great PMs there and a great PM practice. So I'm excited to be here tonight to talk to you a little bit about the world of data visualization. I am curious, how many of you consider yourselves to be data visualization creators? How many of you have ever had to make a chart in a PowerPoint slide deck? How many of you have ever had to analyze a chart on a Jira board? Okay. Or a chart somewhere else to see what's happening in your project? Oh, it makes me sad that this is not all hands up. All right. So today I want to talk to you about reflections on the current state of the world of data visualization. I am not going to make my misguided goal of advising you in the course of half an hour what software technology you should use. I have strong opinions, so if you want to ask me in the Q&A, I'm happy to share those. But I'm not going to make that the feature of my presentation. I want to instead talk a little bit about the world of data visualization, and especially about some of the impacts we're seeing in the world of AI and how AI is kind of intersecting with and influencing our practice of data viz. Does anyone know what this map is? It is. This is down near my neighborhood in DC. I came up to you guys all the way from the lovely area of Southwest Waterfront near the Capitol. Does anyone know who made this map? This specifically styled map that hangs in my house. I did not make it. A child did not make it. No, this is a map by Territory. She's a map developer who draws these kind of schematic line maps of different parts of DC and now other neighborhoods and areas. And so this is a map of part of Washington, DC. I love maps. I have maps all over my house. I have lots of maps of Illinois and Wisconsin from old atlases for where my husband and I are from. I have these kind of maps, all kinds of decorative maps. I also spent time when I was a child getting to hold these kind of maps. Does anyone remember the days of navigating around with these kind of maps? Does anyone still have one in their glove box? On the day that Garmin, Google Maps, and every other technology fails you, you will still be able to find your way around, right? The map will probably not be up to date, is my guess. Like the Rand McNally Atlas of my childhood, I don't think could actually get me around anymore. The stars shall be where they are. I am not going to venture into that kind of mapping. But maps, right? We use maps to get around in the days before we had all the technology platforms that we have. Then there's the days of my high school days of driving. This is when, if anyone is young enough to not recognize this, this is a printout of MapQuest. You were going somewhere new, you'd plug in where you're going, you would plot those directions, and you would use the home printer that we all actually had, and then print out those directions by choice and hang them somewhere, usually, so you could read them. This is not a way to avoid distracted driving at all. It's a terrible idea, but it is a way that we got around and we navigated, right? And it was a tool, the internet, something on the internet, and a product helping us go ahead and plot the most efficient way or different paths to get from point A to point B. Nowadays, we have tools like this, right? We have inbuilt GPSs in our car. We have Google Maps. We have other ways that help us get around. When I drove up here tonight, I had a navigator talking over my speaker system in my car telling me where to turn, right? That's the reality of how we navigate today. And we still need directions now, the way you did thousands of years ago and today, even if technology has changed how we consume that information, right? How does that information get shared with us? As we think about the ways in which the world of technology is changing, I heard that you've had some talks about AI over the course of the past few months. Matt, I think you said you did one on AI?
Given my amateur.
No, I'm going to stand up here and say I am the most like AI skeptical person. So as I dive into this whole conversation, take this from a very big AI skeptic in a lot of ways. So as we look at AI, this is a Google Trends report. This is looking through kind of the end of last year on the relative popularity of the search term AI and who was looking for it. And you see this huge spike up, right? AI became a thing that anyone could access through ChatGPT and other tools. And so you saw the ways in which AI kind of has taken everyone by storm because of this accessibility of AI technology. And if you're not familiar, again, Google Trends let you look at relative popularity, which is important to think about on the scaling of this axis. This is a relative popularity of this search term over the course of 5 years. Now, something I work with a lot in my world is working with dashboards. Now, dashboards has not had the same spike in popularity recently. You can see we had some bigger spikes over the course of the last couple of years. And we've seen the ways in which dashboards kind of have this simmering interest because they're useful tools for monitoring and understanding what's happening within a program or a project or an organization. Now, compared to AI, though, dashboards are kind of down here at the bottom. The red line here is dashboards. The blue line that's spiking up is AI. Everyone wants to know, how can I use AI in my work and in my world? And I don't know, in my husband's D&D campaign planning. So whatever that looks like for you and how you might integrate ChatGPT into your world, that's great. But as we look at the ways in which our need for information has changed, we still need information, whether that's being delivered to us through a dashboard, through a Google search, through ChatGPT, through something else, even if AI changes how we work as data visualization creators. So when I think about data visualization and data visualization designers, I like to think of us as data curators in a lot of ways. We take the patterns and the analyses that are available in massive tranches of data and information and massive tables. And we're part of the team that helps to make patterns in data accessible through data visualization. If you haven't thought about charts and graphs as accessibility tools to reduce the cognitive load of finding patterns in data, it's a great way of reframing and thinking about the power of charts and graphs. So we help make sense of the immense volume of data in the world. And a lot of what I work on and build often are very practical kind of dashboards and tools and visualization. I spend about half my time right now working with USAID, with the Office of HIV/AIDS, focusing on work overseas with our mission colleagues as well as at headquarters. And I've spent a lot of my time in my life working on different ways to make data accessible and available through relatively, let's call them boring charts. Bar charts, line graphs, sometimes dabbling down into the world of scatter plots and dot plots, but ways that I'm focused on reducing the cognitive load that someone has when they're looking at data to find a pattern or see information. And I think that there's going to continue to be a big role for these kind of data curators, these data viz designers, the people like you who maybe make a chart in PowerPoint every so often, despite the rise in popularity of AI. Because data visualization is a skill that we all can build and all have. Again, how many of you have made a PowerPoint slide with a chart? So you have this skill, right? You can take a data table and turn it into a chart. Now, you can spend, I think, relatively quickly, go from 0 to 5 on a 0 to 10 scale on your skills in data visualization. Meaningful text, purposeful color, some good sorting, good chart choice, and you are on the road to success at doing a little bit less death by PowerPoint, maybe with charts and graphs. You could spend another rest of your life or 10 more years or however long building that skill up to hone your craft in different ways like many developers have. And those are the people for whom data visualization often becomes a full-time job. People for whom data visualization is the center of their world and their work. Now, I don't think everyone needs to be a full-time data visualization designer to leverage and harness the power of data visualization as a skill and way of communicating information, like many of you do, either as curators and creators of charts and graphs, or as the managers and team members who are helping other people interpret and understand what is on those charts and what they mean. Both of those are very valuable. In our data visualization survey, or in our Data Visualization Society annual survey, we ask people questions about what they do and their roles. And in the most recent tranche of survey data from 2023, this report just came out, about almost 3/4 were people who were employed by someone doing data visualization. Another kind of 20%-ish were 10% were freelancers, and the remainder were kind of classified as neither. They were academics or kind of classified themselves in other ways. And this chart and some others I'll pull up are from our annual State of the Industry report that members can find on our website. And if you look up at the ways in which different people's jobs break down, there's a lot of different kinds of things people who answer our survey questions go ahead and talk about as their jobs and their roles, and the kinds of products that they build. So we have people who build more exploratory graphics, things that are more meant to be dashboards and letting you explore patterns, and more explanatory analytical graphics. We have people doing more conceptual work, drawing kind of schematics and frameworks and visualizing information more broadly, and things based more in quantitative data and numbers. And all of these little bubbles represent various different kinds of jobs that have a strong feature in data visualization, and that data visualization is a strong part of their work. And so as you think about the people and team members you work with, think about the fact that data visualization is one of these cross-cutting skills almost. The way being a good writer and communicator helps people in so many different roles across a team. Being a good data communicator and data visualization person can do the same. So we acknowledge that AI will likely change and is changing the ways that we work as data visualization creators. In that annual survey, we found that about 1/4 of the folks who responded are using AI in some way in their work. And my favorite part of these respondents are actually the share that don't know. Maybe they were being very analytical, like maybe there's AI in a tool I already use and I don't even recognize I'm using it. But as you look at the ways in which that breaks down, and we'll talk about this chart on the right a little bit more in a minute, as we think about the share of people with something that's so rapidly being rolled out, to see that when we did this survey in October of last year, that 25-ish% of people, 1 in 4 was saying they were using AI in their work, is a big shift in how we work. And that's a big part because of tools like ChatGPT and the ability to create your own custom GPTs and models that allow you to ask and answer questions. But it's also because of the integration and use of imaging software. How many of you have used Midjourney or Dolly or some other AI type tool? Yeah, okay. So these are tools where you can put in a prompt and it will generate an image for you. When I show you the image on the next page, you've probably seen some of this kind of artwork come out. And people have done some fun things with developing great data visualization, examples, and inspiration. Check out this dashboard inspiration. How would your manager or team leader feel about a dashboard that centers on a rainbow parrot? It's honestly so cool. Not so good. So on a scale of 1 to 10. So if we look at the ways in which, when we prompt these kind of tools to build beautiful dashboards, they focus on the beautiful part. They focus and index on pretty, not on functional. And at the end of the day, we often really need functional tools. So if we prompt Midjourney to do this, and we put in this word like dashboard, we can take dashboard to mean a very simple thing, a visual display of data used to monitor conditions and or facilitate understanding. That is from my lovely Chart Chat colleagues who wrote the big book of dashboards. So it's pretty straightforward. And if we go ahead and ask Midjourney to imagine a beautiful headquarters dashboard designed with a whale, graphs, images, and stats, we get something like this. And I think if we prompted it to build us something that was called, say, a business dashboard, it might be more pragmatic, but it does index and focus on the beauty and not the functionality, which makes me a little bit less worried for my job so far. As we look at the ways in which AI is integrated into different tools, though, we're seeing it integrated into the ways in which it can be used more as a co-pilot, like what Microsoft calls their AI co-pilot, and as a way in which we can go ahead and streamline our work. We can find ways that AI can suggest and streamline and benefit us in different ways as we think of it as one more thing in our technology toolbox, and a rather transformative thing in our technology toolbox with all the things you can do, but a piece of technology nonetheless. So AI is going to, I think, do 3 big things, especially this year for the world of data visualization, and likely for work more widely. One is to address challenges of efficiency in how we do our work. When you think about what AI can do, it can take an image of a dashboard, a simple one, and it can reverse engineer code where it actually writes the base code in R or another platform that you can then edit and update as a data viz creator. And it addresses one of our biggest challenges we have seen over more than 5 years of doing our annual survey, which is that the biggest challenge people face to do data viz is time. This question of how do I find the time to learn new tools, to hone my craft, to really focus on the fine tuning of my data visualizations. And AI has the potential for giving us back some of our time through these efficiency gains. When you look at the automation potential, particularly in federal government, Deloitte has a whole report focusing on AI in this space and looking at tasks that have great potential for automation and the ways in which we can go ahead and hone in on how we access and use and document information using AI. And when you look across the stacks of things that we do in the data viz space, these are 6 different areas that we pull on around in our survey around data viz work and workflows. If you haven't thought about breaking down work this way, for us, we think about kind of ideating on chart types and your goals and your projects, on looking at honing in and looking at your data, working with your data, building your chart, maintaining it if you have to update the data. And AI has big potential for efficiency in those spaces around how we wrangle and work with data. We also have seen that that is what people said they were using AI for the most often. I don't have my fancy spotlight clicker with me, but the bar on the big green bar, which those are looking at the ranked order of the ways in which people are using AI, the biggest green bar is really focused on people using it for data wrangling and data shaping. The second thing that AI will let us do is shift our modes of delivery and enable us to use other technology platforms and tools that may not have been accessible to us before for delivering analytical insights like things on dashboards. We see across the various different tools, this is looking at the Magic Quadrant from Gartner for business intelligence. How many of you guys know the Magic Quadrant? You look at this and you already know that Tableau and Power BI fight each other, / Microsoft and Salesforce. So as you look at this, you can see that there's a lot of different tools that are kind of working in this data visualization space and BI space. And a lot of them are integrating AI capabilities into the tools themselves. But in addition to those kind of standard BI platforms, those dashboarding type tools, We see additional tools like notebooks coming out, like the Notable platform that was around for a while, looking at different Jupyter notebooks, other things that allow you to write a prompt, use a tool, and build a whole interactive report in a code-based workbook that can integrate various different languages in one space. And that's something that AI can do to break down a barrier of code knowledge and data literacy almost, to allow you to go ahead and point to, draw in data from a given public source, and then do something with it. And in a more constrained environment or enterprise client, maybe doing that with more proprietary data sources. I think the third thing AI will do for us that comes with efficiency is depth. It can go through a lot more data faster than what we're able to do as humans in terms of the amount of data and the tranches of data it can evaluate. As we look at what people are saying about AI, there's a lot of comments about these kind of AI-driven analytics and dashboards, and there's a lot of potential in that, right? The ways in which natural language search gets integrated into our dashboards, whole tools like ThoughtSpot that are trying to convince me that dashboards are dead based on their Instagram campaign that keeps targeting me poorly. And actually focus on allowing you to ask a question of your data. Can you show me the top 5 blank? Can you show me the most efficient path to blank? And actually ask a question of your data, all of which relies on having well-governed, well-curated, well-managed data sources typically, which is one of the big challenges we see around this integration of AI, where it's only as good as the data you can feed into it, which is where I'm still not worried about my job. So AI will change how we work and allow us to gain efficiency, to go ahead and go deeper in some of the data, and to shift to new modes of delivery that may have been inaccessible to us sometimes because of any gaps in code knowledge or platform knowledge. It will allow us to go ahead and take these big tables that I work with the World Bank sometimes and actually quickly transform them and use some of the tools available so that they're tidy and easy to manage with the data viz platform. And we'll continue to see changes and shifts in what this tooling landscape looks like. We go ahead and in our survey, we look at what tools people are using, and the Microsoft stack keeps growing. People can answer as many tools as they want. That's why these aren't stack bars up to 100%. So this is looking at the share of people for any given row who said they use a given tool. And the Microsoft stack keeps growing because of cost and efficiency and a lot of other things. But I expect we'll see some new tools emerging as the next couple of years of surveying comes in terms of what other tools are in people's tool stack. You'll see that Figma, for example, was added only recently as a standalone tool because it was written in so frequently as the other category. And I'll give a nudge that, well, Microsoft is gaining lots of share in terms of people. People still really like using Tableau. So just to make sure I don't give all my love to one tool or another. So I think what all this does for us is it allows us to move towards a place of greater data maturity as teams and organizations. And AI helps us go down that path, but it isn't the only answer in terms of how we focus and use data in our work. We have to focus on the ways in which we use technology, analytics, data, all those technology-based things in partnership with the data culture and people skills that we need in order to actually make sure that the data gets used. And so technology, AI is one piece of that puzzle in the world of data viz. But the other big piece of that puzzle is people and the human in the loop pieces and thinking about the ways in which even our sketches and drawings and post-it notes on walls are creating their own sets of data and information. So what is the role of a dashboard designer in this AI-enabled world? Why am I not worried for my job yet? One is usability. So thinking about the usability and focusing on who it is that's consuming the information. As a data visualization designer, my job is not just to make a pretty chart. Then I would have mid-journey images and whales and rainbow parrots. And that's not what most of my clients are looking for. Instead, we think deeply about who our audience is, what they need to know, and how they want to engage with information. And for someone, that pretty beautiful dashboard with a parrot might be exactly what they need, but probably not in my world of public health and data about HIV/AIDS. So we think about our audience in different ways. We map out personas and think about who they are as people. We frame out user stories. As a so-and-so, some role, I need some kind of information in order to do something. And we think about how differing skills across persona groups shift and change the needs of the data viz products. And we map out when people engage with our dashboards and data visualizations on journey maps and other spaces. All of this is data, right? Data about people and audiences, but data that's not easily accessible or found in some open chat GPT repository. It's data I find by interviewing people and having conversations and watching how they work with and access data. If you want to go back about a year, the Data Viz Society hosts the annual Information is Beautiful Awards now, originally run by David McCandless and his team. And last year in 2022, the winner of the business analytics category was this star graphic. When you see this, do you see business analytics? Do you think people got really angry on Twitter? Because they did. People were really critical of the fact that this won a Business Analytics Award. And this is a great graphic that took home the gold by Voila, an agency up in Canada. It is the absolute perfect graphic for what it was trying to do, visualizing data about a business and a portfolio, because this was sent out at the end of the year on a postcard as a piece of data art to all of the firm's clients. It wasn't meant to be something that gave you rapid access to patterns and information. It wanted you to not throw away the postcard like it was junk mail. And so it was meant to be something that was more artistic, in contrast to what I think people thought would win, which is something more like this. That's a very precise, very detailed dashboard. But as we think about our audiences, the reason that postcard won was in part because it was a great fit for the audience and for the purpose, which is part of what we assess with the IIB Awards. And part of that is looking at in my work, like as a program manager, I need some kind of data in order to do something. And me translating that into various different fields of data and information that I might have access to, for example, in a mobile health program. And then taking and thinking about what data table I can go and access and find, and then iterating across and visualizing different types of charts with the exact same numbers that all tell you a different story and answer a different question. And picking which chart to use depends on what it is that I want to communicate and what someone needs to know. As we think about what that looks like in a broader scale, Ferdio has actually done, oh, it didn't come, it's so sad. On the downloaded section, there is a lovely scrolling chart by Ferdio that shows you how you can build 100 different charts with 6 data points, two time periods, 2 years, 3 countries. So if you ever wanted to pull some data viz information and inspiration, the 100 Project by Ferdio is excellent. The next thing that we can do as humans is to focus on imbuing data with meaning and making sure that data just doesn't sit there on a screen for the sake of being there. So thinking about what someone wants to know, I can take the same exact data table and based on using different metrics or interpretations, look at, do you want to know about new users by country? Or do you want to know about the total users by country? Those are 2 different questions. And I think that we as humans can help to think about what those questions are that our audience wants to answer to make sense of the volume of data that gets created, estimated to be around 329 million terabytes of data per day. And that's a lot of data and information. So making sense of that requires people in a room together. How many of you are glad to be back to at least some in-person in a room together things? Because I really missed my Post-it notes a lot. Like, Mural and Miro are not the same thing as sketching on a whiteboard, especially if you're building out wireframes and mockups of dashboards and charts and graphs. Having that kind of space is really helpful. But it's getting people together in a room like that, having conversations, bringing context that doesn't exist somewhere else, and all of that knowledge and information and subject matter expertise. That is what helps imbue data with meaning, the people. When we think about what that means in context, there was an estimate from a recent study that was published in Harvard Business Review that looked at how many leaders thought that data literacy was important to their business's success, and thought that 90% of people, business leaders, said data literacy was key to company success. What share of people do you think actually have some degree of data literacy or competency in an organization? What share of people they thought had that competency? The perception of these same leaders, what share of their companies did they think had that skill? I just made it sound so low. It's higher than 10. It's 25. When they looked and they polled it, 25% of workers actually felt confident in their data skills in terms of their ability to work with data. And that's a big gap and a mismatch, right? If we have leaders saying that you need these skills for our company to succeed in this world, and then you have people who don't feel like they have those skills, technology can help to bridge that gap, but part of that is also with people who interpret the charts and graphs and help coach people on how to be better readers of charts even if they're not themselves data people. This comes back to that question of if data visualization is a skill or a full-time job or both. When we think about the ways we build those skills so we can enable those people to build those abilities, or maybe enable you all, if you're looking at diving in this space to learn more about data viz, I really think investing in this foundation of fundamentals is critical. Understanding how to make the different graphical design decisions that we make as designers in order to communicate information more effectively, and thinking about the language and the science around which we talk about our work. When we look at the ways in which people are investing their professional development funds, also from last year's annual survey, we keep seeing this growth of wanting to not only find meaning in the work you're doing, but in the communities within which you're doing it. More and more money and time getting invested more in conferences and connection, because there's so much ready access to on-demand learning in other spaces, that it's that creation of meaning through connection that really matters. The last thing that we do with, yes?
Going back to the last slide.
Yes.
As a ED for a nonprofit, how do you feel about that? Because like you mentioned Gartner, like I was at the Gartner CIO conference at Disney World in October, and it's basically just a glorified vacation.
That sounds like fun.
So, like, do you see that trend only getting, because pre-pandemic, it was a lot lower. So do you think but association fees are going up more. So do you think that's more of a detriment? I mean, we're even seeing that in the PMI space of like membership across PMI chapters went down because during the pandemic, they're like, well, like I was using this for networking. Mm-hmm. Now there's other ways to network. I'm not going to pay the $20, $50 a year for that anymore. So.
That's a great question. I mean, I think when we look at where we are as an organization, as a professional membership association, we're 5 years old. We're like a baby on the scale of professional associations, right? And so we only even launched paid membership 2 years ago. We started as all free and open. And so part of our question has been, how do we give value to members in terms of not just the connections and the networking, because we don't do as much with like local chapters. We do have those, but not to the same volume that PMI has. But instead thinking about what are the other resources or virtual spaces we can create for that. And even our conference, when it moved to having an in-person component last year in Porto in Portugal, and it'll be in Chicago this year, we kept it hybrid more from a lens of inclusivity. How do we make sure that it remains accessible to anyone who wants to join us, even if they're somewhere where they can't get a visa or don't have the funding? And so I think that this is a little bit biased in the sense of where you'd spend professional development money, because it's not really always your money. You're making a decision. I managed professional development approvals at Excella for a while, and there always is this push at the end of the year of use it or lose it. It doesn't roll over. And so I'm curious if part of this ends up also being from a place with the professional association fees, that if you have money at the end of the year, why not, if you're not going to pack in another conference or event? But I'm curious to see kind of what happens long term. I think we're still in a kind of the rocky seas of out of peak pandemic times. I guess as a public health person, I look at the wastewater data and think we're not really out of COVID right now. But as you go ahead and look at this, I'm curious to see what actually happens in terms of long term and what it means for hybrid events. Because I do think a lot more people are going to conferences and things because they've remained hybrid and accessible virtually. Great question. You're welcome to read more about it in our annual State of the Industry report that analyzes this data further. Written by our wonderful, wonderful programs director, Jill Brown. So the last thing that I want to point to in terms of things we do as people is trust, right? I said up front, I'm an AI skeptic. It's partially because of my own concerns about some of the ethics and challenges with using AI. And I think back to the pandemic and the challenges we had in imbuing trust in the data that we were presenting to people. Data visualization was one way to communicate that data, displaying information in scorecards and risk ratings and trying to influence human and individual and collective community behaviors. But it also came with a lot of polarization. Joss Fong is an amazing video communicator, science communicator. She does so many things, but recently left Vox. But she did this video focused on pandemic polarization and looking at data spread across different voting patterns by state and by county. And in her conversations with people, she talked a lot with different folks who themselves were skeptic around the COVID vaccines or other kind of pandemic related data and information, and dug into the numbers and the data about that and talked about the challenges of polarization and the speed with which misinformation spreads. And if you read my New York Times piece, it connects back to that same theme. And so as we think about the speed with which misinformation spreads, AI makes it easier to generate bad charts and graphs, misleading charts and graphs, unintentionally misleading charts and graphs, or intentionally bad ones. And so I worry about a lot about that. And I want to know more about who the humans are who are clicking the keys on the computer if you're using AI or other AI enablement tools to develop different charts and graphs. I want the human in the loop, and I want to know who that person is. Crystal Lee at MIT, I'll interject. I didn't put her slide up, but I should. She did an amazing study where they dove in for 6 months into anti-mask and other kind of anti-groups during the pandemic. And one of the key things they found in helping people believe and understand data more was having a name and a face to who collected and was communicating that data. Just think about that in terms of just knowing who not just the messenger is, but who the data curator is. And you all have the potential, maybe in some lower stakes environment, but high stakes in your individual roles to be that curator. And so as we think about what that means long term, the pandemic was one more isolated space of looking at more charts and graphs, but things like climate data has a lot of the same weight in terms of the kind of existential challenges that we face. And so as we think about the use of tools like ChatGPT, it's so important that we really actually focus in on the error, the message at the bottom that says that you should check your facts and check what comes out of that tool because it's not perfect. And so I don't think dashboards are dead or that human-made data visualizations are dead. In fact, I think there's even more appetite for creative data physicalization where we're seeing things made in paint strokes and in Play-Doh and in other media that are just fun to work with. And I think that as we kind of dig in and look forward, we'll continue to see an appetite from decision makers and managers for those kind of simple monitoring dashboards that maybe have increasing levels of sophistication of connecting the dots between different things. And so as we think about what that evolution looks like, going back to our point at the beginning, maybe kind of the cockpit looks a bit different in terms of how we drive, and it's gotten more complicated. We're driving more of an airplane now than driving a car, but we're still needing to drive and move around nonetheless. And so I don't think that we're going to see this kind of dashboards are dead piece go forward. I think dashboards will evolve. The way they're delivered, the way our monitoring tools are delivered, how we do them will evolve, rather than thinking that they will just drop off and be gone. Tableau was not the death of Excel, despite what some people I think said, because people widely use Excel still as a tool. Yes. Well, you want to challenge me on that?
No.
Excel is great. I love Excel. I'm going to put on the record on that one.
It's in support of that. Like during the SAG strike and the writer's strike in Hollywood, there was a lot of pressure on the streamers to share their data. So especially Netflix in terms of viewership data. So they finally, like with their annual report, shared, and you clicked on it and it downloaded an XLS and with 5 columns, which was kind of like a salute to those who were like, you want the data, here you go. But I found it fun as a data dork to like filter it down and like to create a couple more columns. But the fact that like as powerful as Netflix is, used Excel to communicate, I think it was 120,000 rows of all their viewership library in Excel.
What's the row record? Like, what's the unit in each row? Country? No,
just overall. Like, they didn't give that much data, so it was kind of like, you want it, here you go. But I thought it was kind of.
I love when someone does a good data dump and then you just get to figure it out. That's fun. Data dictionaries are wonderful. Thank you to every one of you who's ever worked on a data dictionary. I appreciate you. If no one has said that to you, I appreciate that you're doing that. So if you think about like Excel is not dead, other tools are not dead. And we're back to the world, like I said, of physical objects and pen and paper and drawing things, in part because that human touch does bring something different to graphs and charts. So we still need information, right? That hasn't changed about the world, but perhaps we need information more today than ever because data has become part of the fabric of our society. As we think about the portrait of what careers look like in data viz, this is a color wheel reimagined into the various different data visualization skills you might have: communications, leadership, design. And as you look at these kind of zoomed out, these are different data portraits of 12 different data visualization designers in our career portrait series. And you can see, I think the important piece here is not the precision, that's not the goal. It's the diversity of the various different skills and pieces of knowledge we need on a team to bring a really diverse group of people together. And so as you think about the ways in which data visualization fits in your work, maybe one day you could be on one of these color wheels, one of these portraits. And so you might take a path as a designer, an engineer, an analyst, something else, but the world of data visualization is wide and varied, and it is being shaped by AI, but it also is being shaped by the amazing people in this community who continue to innovate and push the envelope on how we do things differently. And as we think about what that means long term, I think that we think about the ways in which we learn. And one thing we've seen consistently as I wrap up is that working on a project is a really powerful way of learning new skills, that hands-on learning, right? And what that looks like. And so I'll make a nudge that we just opened up with the wonderful project leads, Anthony Starks and Alan Hillary, the third annual W.E.B. Du Bois Challenge, where people are taking and looking at the graphics created to explore the world of race data from W.E.B. Du Bois that were done by hand and reimagining and trying to build them in modern tooling. And you know what? It's really hard to build some of these curvy bar charts in modern tooling. The creativity he was able to create by using pen and paper is really powerful. And to this day, created some of the most powerful visualizations we've seen around the state of issues of segregation and inequality across racial groups in the US. So if you're curious about getting more involved in practicing your skills, I'd encourage you to find a challenge like this or something else to dive into and practice your data viz skills. Whatever works for you is what matters the most, though. We see a lot of differences in what people prefer in terms of their skills. This is the breakdown by males and females of what preferences are in terms of how people learn. And so you'll see that people have a lot of different ways in which they engage with learning content. So as we think about building data visualization design skills, I want to leave you with the thought that doing this and delivering great dashboards does not just inform business decisions. Today, this is necessary to be more data-informed citizens and how you navigate the world and the news and so many parts of life around us. And it's this intersection of technology and people that's really powerful, that allows us to engage with the world and with data in different ways. And that focuses on using technology for these goals of increased efficiency, different delivery, more depth in the volume of data we can explore, while still focusing on the human elements of usability, meaning, and trust, in ways in which we can shape the way people see and understand data. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and talk about this intersection of technology and people by mentioning the Data Visualization Society. I do volunteer as the executive director. I've volunteered on the board for 5 years now. Yay! Everyone who has been a volunteer member of a professional association is clapping, right? So I've been on the board for 5 years, starting as the ops director and now as the executive director. Our birthday is this month. We're very excited. We turned 5. That was a big milestone in public health. Like that, we had a whole every child deserves a 5th birthday campaign in I think 2012 with USAID. But 5 is a big deal for us because I think we're working our way out of our adolescence. So if you're curious about DVS, we have 3 core goals. We want to nurture the data viz community and the world of data visualization, celebrate it, and advance the data viz industry in meaningful ways. And we do that in a couple ways. We have our annual conference I've mentioned called Outlier. This year, the theme is around positive disruption in the world of data viz. So you're welcome to go ahead and check out the speaker applications, which are open now, or join us in Chicago or virtually. We have a journal, Nightingale, that's been running for almost 5 years. We publish 2 to 3 articles a week on our digital site. And this is exciting. We have a challenge with the microphone line. We did the crazy thing in this time and age, and we went to a print publication, and we actually have a magazine that goes out twice a year. So we are going to do a raffle at the end, along with the DVS membership, for someone to get a swag bag with issue 3 of Nightingale magazine. So we have Nightingale to go ahead and share valuable information if you want to learn about data viz stuff. We have so much of our past conference content on our YouTube channel to explore and do Inspiration Fridays focused on themes like accessibility and creativity. And we host the Information is Beautiful Awards in partnership and with support from David McCandless each year, celebrating great work in data viz. If you're looking for inspiration, this is an entire trove of 10 seasons of award-winning data visualizations you can explore by topic and other ways. If you're interested in becoming a member, there's plenty of membership information on our website. I'd love to have folks from PMI get involved. Some of you who might think of yourselves as having a data viz skill set, not being a full-time designer, we welcome you. Don't feel intimidated by the name of our society. We welcome you to come hang out with us. And last, because it's my last slide, I'm just gonna wrap up. And last, I do have a book I'm working on right now with my Chart Chat colleagues, all about dashboards. So we're really indexing on dashboards not being dead. So I'm definitely a biased voice on this one. But we are looking for great examples of really great dashboards that have great designs, are practical, help someone make decisions, and maybe have a good story of how you got there, the process of making and building a great dashboard. So if you have any suggestions for us or want to submit something, feel free to submit something to the new book or chat with me at the end of today. So with that, I will wrap up and go back to Matt's enthusiastic questions and maybe yours as we wrap up our presentation.
Yep, I've been a member for 2 weeks, and the newsletters are fun and informative. So
I actually write the intro to every newsletter. I do actually write that. It says my name on it, and I write it. So thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. We do a This Week in Data Viz every single week. Our homepage gets updated, and there's a weekly email that goes out with highlights of things to read, things to watch, conversations to join. And that's a great way to just kind of get a dabbling sense of what to look at in the data viz world, which can be so wide and varied. So thanks for the ringing endorsement, Matt. Appreciate it. All right, questions. Yeah. I love fun questions. You're not going to ask me to rank order my favorite data viz tools from 1 to 5, because that's everyone's favorite. Okay.
Your presentation assumes people think in pictures, and about 70% of people do think in pictures, but about 25% think in words. And I think of my friend who's an attorney and also an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
We can't communicate because I think in pictures. And so I'm wondering, do you have any tips for communicating to that, 25% of the population that just doesn't get this?
So the question is, how do you communicate when you are a person who thinks in pictures and your colleague, friend, chum, partner thinks in words, right? So I think text is one of the most important components of data visualization design. And ultimately, if you're developing a chart or graph and you're presenting it somewhere to communicate an analysis finding, you should state that finding in plain language as your headline. But if I don't even see your chart, I know what you want me to know from that data. And so if you're building charts and graphs, I think using meaningful text in the form of a clear headline, subtitle, annotation layers on a line chart, annotating and writing in what happened is really important. And it addresses not just the issue of how we think differently, but the gaps in data literacy and graphicacy and the ways in which three different people can look at the same chart and see 3 totally different data stories. I can show you a chart of kind of HIV testing going down during the pandemic and back up again. And I could write you the headline that testing went down during the pandemic, what a disaster. Testing has recovered since the pandemic, what a success story. Or we're missing all of our targets and have for the past 5 years in terms of the share of Americans who know their HIV status, and we're failing across the board. And I could show you the same line chart and you could say all 3 of those things and they would all be correct, but they would all be different stories. So I think meaningful text on charts and graphs and not ignoring that piece of the puzzle is really important. Yeah.
You think there's a correlation between the sentiment that dashboard events have delivering effective behaviors?
Well, that's a good question. So the question for those on the line is, do you think there's a connection between this kind of issue of low data literacy, 25% of workers saying they have kind of data competency in using data, and the sentiment that dashboards are dead? I think that dashboards that are dead piece is a mantra being pushed a lot by technology platforms that have made their name out of being an AI-based tool that you ask a question and then pick your chart type. So it's more choose your own adventure and self-service. If you talk to, I did a demo with a while ago with a VP at ThoughtSpot, and they said point blank, we're not trying to compete with Tableau. You need the dashboard developer to build you a Tableau dashboard. We want business users to be able to ask a question of their data and then be able to pick their chart type and build it. And so I think there maybe is a correlation piece there. I don't think that dashboards themselves are meant for everyone. I think the biggest mistake we make in dashboard design is building dashboards that are meant to serve everyone's needs, not the people who are going to actively use that data and information. And so I think part of that is just people dealing with really crappy, messy, unfocused dashboards that don't have a clear goal, a clear audience, or a clear set of analytical questions they're answering. And oftentimes dashboards fail to address the so what. So like, is this number, this big number, the bands, have we all heard of bands? Big A numbers, big awesome numbers, or big A, 2 more letters numbers? You can pick your poison there. But bands, these numbers, these KPI boxes across the top of a dashboard, super powerful, great for grabbing numbers, really helpful. I need to know something besides the numbers. Is the number going up or going down? Is going up or down good or bad? Have I met a target or not met a target? What period actually matters for me? Week over week, month over month, year over year? If I just give you a big number at the top of a dashboard, that is usually meaningless, unless you want a vanity metric to go report out in a PowerPoint slide deck. For you to do something with it, you have to know when you look at that dashboard, is it a cause for celebration or a cause for concern? If I haven't given you that information and tied that together from a UX perspective with an indicator button or color or sparkline or something else, I've failed you as a dashboard developer in giving you actionable information. I have strong feelings. I'm going to let Matt call in people because you might know names and I don't know names. Data Viz Society. It's cool. Just shorten it. Data Viz Society. Yeah. So about 60% of our members are in some space around data analytics or business intelligence. You wouldn't probably know that from some of the like speakers we've had at Outlier and other spaces that are more in the data journalism, data art type spaces. Like John Byrne Murdoch from the Financial Times was one of our keynote speakers last year in Porto. And so when you look at the kind of array of people inside of DVS, my background is that I am a MPH undergrad in zoology and sociology, double major from Miami of Ohio. Went on to go ahead and work in the world around evaluation, research, and health information systems, and just wanted to communicate data more effectively, and had the wonderful happy accident, like most great data viz careers, I think, of stumbling into a project after grad school where I was working on developing content as an analyst for big USAID reports to Congress and other spaces, and got to work with web developers and graphic designers and tech writers who all made my writing, my visualizations, and my graphics way better. And I wanted to learn how to do that. So I went back and self-taught functionally and eventually started teaching other people. But you find that story in almost any data viz person you talk to these days who kind of emerged in this field before the land of degrees in data analytics and data science. I mean, most of us have these weird meandering career paths that happen to really like this intersection of left and right brain thinking and art and science together. And it's a wonderful space. I can name off people who are an ASL interpreter by training and now the chief visualization officer at a new startup company. Someone else who was a folklorist in their undergrad degree, but now is amazing at speaking about the ways in which what we call data stories are not actually stories at all, because they have no characters, and his roots of what storytelling is are in folklore. And I love the conversations those things create. And inside of DVS, we have all those different groups of people, including dedicated spaces for early career practitioners, including students and other folks who are new to this field, where we try to be as welcoming as we can be in sharing those kind of new pieces of information. So we all have a shared language to speak in.
We had one question in the chat, just to be fair to them.
Yeah.
You
can let them ask 2 questions if they want.
Sure. What platform facilitates user interactive dashboards to help convey information beyond fixed images?
Beyond fixed images?
Yeah.
Oh, so the business intelligence tools and platforms are good for that. I think you have to think in a couple layers. So it depends on where you're delivering things. If you're looking for something that is let's call it, if you're looking for something that is reusable in the sense that you can actually feed data into it and it will refresh and update, the BI tool stack of things, Microsoft Power BI, Tableau, Qlik, those all work well for that functional purpose. And Tableau and Power BI are the 2 I've used the most and am most familiar with. If you're looking at ways in which you could build interactive dashboards or interactive charts that allow you to interact with data on a screen, but don't necessarily have to be refreshed with new data all the time, or I guess in some cases if they do, tools that data journalists use, like Data Wrapper, are great for that. Flourish, tools that allow you to build these kind of scrolly telling interactive graphics that don't require any code knowledge. You can certainly dive down the world of like D3 and other code-based tools, but I'm going to make the assumption that that's probably not what they're looking for. You've had your hand up, yeah?
I'm working on data visualization, the
yeah.
I self-taught myself, but I saw myself like the team, people are doing my team, what did the analysts or the data I understand. So I had to take myself to push myself. So one thing I realized that in the AI generating data, a lot of data consistent data integrity. Many times you get something error. It still requires humans to rectify making sure the consistency of the data. So how do we rely on the integrity of data generated AI? I would say require humans being to fact check the data for accuracy and consistency.
That's a great question from someone who uses Tableau and Power BI in their work, talking about the challenges of AI making misrepresentations of data or presenting data that has quality issues, right? So I think there's two layers to that. One is, what are things that are human knowable rules that you can apply and build like a data quality monitoring dashboard? Or you can build alerts that say on your dashboard, if I know that a metric usually is within a certain range of values, or I know a metric shouldn't vary more than X% month over month, quarter over quarter, whatever it is, I can then go ahead and I can build alerts into those dashboards that let me know, hey, this number is outside of the expected range. That might mean that there's a data quality issue, whether that's due to AI issues or something else. So I think there's a question of how do we think about the rules we have in our head of like our initial gut checks we do around if the data looks accurate and thinking about accuracy, completeness, and timeliness. But then there's the human piece of it of analyzing and looking at the data and the numbers and asking if they make sense in context and bringing that additional knowledge and expertise, which I don't know that we can automate away. That's partially having those conversations with the business users and the developers in a room together. Did you have a follow-up?
Just to follow up on that, right? Most of the time we extract transform and look at the data source. Some of the data require data cleansing and transform the data. So how can that correlate with AI getting more data from data source? What is what extend the source of the drive to transform and clean the data to be actually clean data for analysis? How can AI aid in our process of cleaning data and transforming data to get actionable insight?
So I'm trying to follow around like this question about going beyond data cleaning and over to analysis. Is that right?
But in data including that we got to connect the data source. Many times collecting data from a raw data source, the data is not transformed, it's scattered.
Yep.
So you require cleansing and transform the data into clean data analysis. So how can AI in this process receiving unprocessed unclean data to be able to get actual insight, get clear visualization? How can that work in this regard?
So this is where I think I would love to defer to one of my colleagues who has started dabbling with and using AI more as a tool for how to go ahead and create those kind of insights. I know one way is to think through the lens of kind of personas and prompting and asking different AI-based tools to say, look at this data table now that it's been cleaned. And I want you to go ahead and I want you to show me, kind of do initial exploratory analysis. What are key insights you see? And then saying, think like a blank, think like a marketing manager. As a marketing manager, what are kind of the key things that you see that are actionable to a marketing manager? And prompting with an AI tool, using that kind of prompting where you tell it what to think like, is one thing that I've heard Jeff Schaefer, who I speak on Chart Chat with, talk about in terms of ways he's done that. I personally haven't integrated AI approaches to actually doing my charts and graphs for me. I still prefer to build them myself. So I'm not one to stand up here and bullshit and give you an explanation that I don't have. So the answer is I don't use it right now for that purpose. I think that there's a question about kind of, are there ways in which it can go ahead and it can look for those kind of actionable insights and in the sense of identifying high or low performers, ranking things, other things like that. But it's not something that I actively use in my practice right now.
Actually, we're okay.
The reason I asked, right, I work a lot of data from stuff, right? And most of the data we get from the different website, it gets scattered. That's why I asked this question, because you find out transformation.
All those transformations usually have rules associated with them, though. So the transformation and cleaning piece, I think, is the easier automation part. The visualization components, I think, are actually the parts that are a little bit harder to automate away. Matt?
Yeah. And here I thought this YouTube video would be PG.
Sorry.
But we have some closing remarks, so we'll go to the end of the raffle. But first, a round of applause for Amanda. And we'll have 2 raffle prizes, one for the swag bag, which will hopefully lead you to become a paid member, and then another 1-year comp membership to the DVS association that we hope to have a long-lasting relationship with.
Thanks for having me, and it was great to have your great questions. I hope that you all are taking away something new about DataViz. Oh, do I get to draw the raffle numbers? So does the first person get to pick their prize? They can pick swag or the membership? Okay.
6710. Hey.
Would you like the membership or would you like the magazine? Would you like to browse the magazine before you take it? What's your preference?
Okay.
Round of applause. My hand.
You're welcome.
And then for the 1-year paid DBS membership, which you'll get information on tomorrow, it's 6677.
6677. Excellent. Maggie, welcome to the DataViz Society. We're thrilled to have you.
Another round of applause for Amanda. Today, just like the DBS, we're also celebrating a birthday. The first Wednesday in February in 2004 was this chapter's first ever meeting. So this should have been a great party. We will have a party later on in the year to celebrate, but unfortunately there was some news we received a few weeks ago that changed our plans. But for more on that, I'll introduce our Vice President of Treasury and Finance, Mr. Gene Egri.
Thanks, Matt. And I'm saying that everybody can see me online as well.
Yep, sure can.
All right, Matt alluded to a little bit, and we wanted to share this news after we had the presentation and dinner and everything. It is my sad duty to report that our founder and president, Charlie Geis, passed away. It's been a couple of weeks. His family is very private. Charlie was a very private person. You've heard it said multiple times. It's all about the members. And Charlie would have wanted us to do exactly what we did tonight, right? Make sure that you all had your good dinners, that you had a great presentation, and that you can go home with that tonight. Charlie, it was January 11th. He had a massive stroke. I didn't find out for about 5 days when his son finally reached out to me. And then I talked to his wife. He had the stroke, went to a local hospital. They actually airlifted him to Johns Hopkins. He had neurosurgery to get rid of a clot, a major clot. But unfortunately, it was too much time without blood to his brain. He wasn't in a coma or anything like that. He was kind of sleeping. I was able to, my wife and we were able to go and see him. So his family was there like till 4:30, and then my wife and I got there about 5 o'clock and stayed for several hours. We made sure that we talked to Charlie, about just so he could hear our voices. And every once in a while, his eyes would kind of peep open a little bit. The next day at 7:20 a.m. is when he passed. So that's something where, you always sit there and kick yourself, should I go visit, whatever. And I was glad that I got permission from his family to go there and see him one last time. A little bit of information about Charlie. First off, everybody has been asking, is there going to be a service or anything like that? Well, I will tell you, again, referring back to his family being very private, there are no services, okay? They're not going to have any services. They were even struggling with putting an obituary out there, and finally they put something out there. If you Google, you'll see something. But I want to give you a couple little high points, if you will. So besides being the president and founder of our chapter, well, first off, Charlie was 73 years old. He's survived by his wife, Joanne, and 2 sons, Barry and Jay. And he has a sister, Christine Kraus, that he's also survived by. He was really into cars. I knew Charlie for 20 years. All right. And I really got to know him. I'm proud to say that he was a friend, close friend. He was involved in the Maryland Camaro Club, the Corvette Club. In fact, when you open up his garage, there's like 4 Corvettes in there. You know, he had one, his wife has one, his son. So it's kind of cool. Charlie was a veteran. He served in the Vietnam War in the Air National Guard, where he was a mechanic on F-86s for you airplane buffs. Yeah, it was real tough. I got to tell you. And the club, the chapters will go on. That's what Charlie would have wanted. It's going to be tough for a long time, but time will heal, and we will move forward. So per the charter, I'm now the acting president until we hold the elections, and we'll hold elections for president. And Matt will have more technical information, but elections for president, you have already had to serve on the board in some capacity to run for president. Same thing for vice president of Treasury and Finance. All the other positions, you can be a first-time member and apply for the board. So we're going to get those elections out of the way so we can move forward. I'm in the process of going through doing some audits of some books, taxes, things like that. If any of you are really familiar with the IRS, or you know somebody from the IRS that I can talk to, I've got some tax questions. I'm being serious now, okay? So if you can, just make yourself known to me, and then I'll get your information. But I would really appreciate some help. I've got some information that I need to kind of go through that Charlie used to do himself, that I'm not going to have to do now. We put together, and Matt's going to put it up. Has it been put to the website yet? Okay, so we're in the process. Matt has it ready to go. We wrote a lot of this up, so it's going to be on the website for all the members to see. I'm going to let Matt introduce the next portion here, but I ask, if you will, just for a moment, to have a moment of silence in Charlie's memory. Thank you. All right, thank you very much. It's all about you all. All right, that's the way we're going to honor Charlie. It's about the members. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Matt. Thank you.
Yep. And just in memoriam videos of version 1.0, we know a lot of you have been long-term members. If you have any memories of Charlie, this hasn't been shared with his family yet, but I think what's the point of life if you don't leave a legacy behind? And the advantage of living in this digital age is that we can leave lasting legacies behind with things like this. So, but just some context before we start the video. In the winter in 2003, PMI WDC was well running, but there wasn't anything between Washington, D.C., which had their meetings in D.C. or Northern Virginia, and Baltimore. So where Montgomery County came into being a thought was, what about all the people on 270? What about Silver Spring? To complement them. So that was the origin of why there's a Montgomery County chapter in addition to a WDC chapter, in addition to a Baltimore chapter. The Silver Spring chapter came afterwards because 270 wasn't enough. They wanted that little corner of 495, and they've done great things. And then Southern Maryland down in Pax River and Pasadena, Maryland, also has a chapter, and that combines our sister chapters of 5. But this is version 1.0 of the video. If you're interested in contributing a video message for those here online, just get in touch with me, and we'll probably try to wrap up the final version in the next week or so.
Lisa.
And I'm Dave.
When we first formed leadership techniques, PMI Montgomery. Hi, I'm Lisa.
And I'm Dave.
When we first formed leadership techniques, PMI Montgomery County was the first chapter we joined, and Charlie was the first person we met.
We always felt we had a home here, being greeted personally at the door by the president at every meeting.
He met every attendee personally when they arrived.
When you presented at Montgomery County PMI, you knew when you were coming to the end of your presentation. At a lot of places, they hold up signs.
There we would just watch Charlie.
At 5 minutes, he stands up.
At 3 minutes, he's at the side of the stage.
At 1 minute, he's walking toward you. And when time is up, he's asking you to pull a number for the raffle. Charlie was an integral part of the PMI community. He touched our hearts, and we will miss him. We are certain that he's already organizing things where he is and teaching them how to make popovers.
Charlie is certainly irreplaceable, but we know he'd be very proud to see the way the officers and the volunteers of PMI Montgomery County step up and keep things going.
What Charlie started here has made a difference and will make a difference for generations to come.
Rest in peace, Charlie, and may your memory live forever.
What can I say about Charlie Geis? A lot of things. Most importantly, though, Charlie would want you to remember that it's not about you. It's not about him. It's about the members. How many times did I hear Charlie Geis say those words? It's about the members. Charlie Geis was never focused on himself. He was always focused on the outcome for others. He was around in PMI as long as I can remember. I joined PMI in 1992, and I swear he was already there. It was amazing. And Charlie was always there. And the beauty of Charlie was he was a man on a mission. He really was. He was somebody whose mission it was to serve the members. When he saw, as president of PMI Montgomery County, when he saw people serving the members, he pronounced it good. When he saw people not serving the members, he's like, how does this serve the members? He cared deeply about the outcomes for you. He always did. That's what made Charlie Geis this very special human being. It made him somebody worth emulating. Somebody you looked at and said, wow, this guy really means that. And he did. Charlie's legacy should live on in that sentiment, in that quest. And it was a quest. When Charlie was president of PMI Montgomery County, he made it his personal quest to remind everybody, hey, it's about the members. Then, when he was no longer PMI president for Montgomery County, he reminded the incoming president, hey, it's all about the members. It's always been all about the members. That was the beauty of Charlie Geis and his single-minded effort to try and make it all about you. What a wonderful legacy to leave behind. What a wonderful thing to be able to say. He was never in it for himself. He was always in it for you. We should all take a page from that, and if you want to serve Charlie well, make it about the others. Today, when you bump into somebody, make it about them, not about you. That's where we all win. Thanks, Charlie.
Thanks for everybody for coming. Thank you for being members. Please drive carefully going home.